The Bureau of Economic Analysis, one of the most precise measuring instruments the federal government operates, currently calculates that owner-occupied housing generates approximately $1.9 trillion in annual economic output for the United States economy. Not through sales. Not through rental income. Through a concept called imputed rent. And the Internal Revenue Service has made a quiet, deliberate, structural decision not to tax a single dollar of it. This content illustrates financial mechanisms and quantified research findings. It does not constitute personalized financial advice. Your specific tax situation, portfolio structure, and timeline require consultation with a licensed fiduciary. Now here is what that means for you specifically. If you own your home free and clear, or are moving toward that position, the IRS has effectively been depositing somewhere between $1,200 and $2,800 into your retirement economy every single month, completely tax-free, and that figure appears nowhere on your brokerage statement, nowhere in your financial advisor's annual review, and nowhere inside the retirement planning software that generated your projected income chart. Not because it is hidden. Because the entire architecture of modern retirement planning was built before the private pension system collapsed, and it was never redesigned after. That is the core problem this analysis addresses. And before we go any further, understand that what follows is not a motivational reframe. It is not a real estate sales argument. It is a structural economic diagnosis built on Bureau of Labor Statistics data, peer-reviewed research from the Journal of Financial Planning, quantified behavioral economics from Princeton, and updated withdrawal rate research from Morningstar and Vanguard. The mechanism is real. The math is reproducible. And the gap between what your retirement plan currently calculates and what your retirement will actually cost you is, for a significant percentage of Americans watching right now, dangerously wide. Compare these two models side by side. On the left side, the standard retirement income dashboard, Social Security projected benefit, portfolio withdrawal estimate, maybe a small pension if you are among the shrinking minority who still have one. On the right, the corrected framework, the same inputs, with one additional line item that conventional planning architecturally omits. That line item is the net invisible paycheck. And the gap between this side and that side is not marginal. For a household carrying a median home value in a mid-tier American market, that gap represents $14,000 to $30,000 annually in tax-free economic value that standard retirement models treat as zero. Notice this percentage, 85. That bold number represents the share of private sector American workers who currently have no defined benefit pension. In 1975, the Bureau of Labor Statistics documented that 88% of private sector workers were covered by defined benefit pension plans. By 2024, that coverage rate had collapsed to approximately 15%. Follow this trend line as it drops, not gradually, but structurally, over 49 years, representing the single largest dismantling of retirement security infrastructure in American economic history. The 73 percentage point collapse happened without public announcement, without a replacement architecture being formally installed, and without the financial planning industry fundamentally redesigning its advice framework to account for the missing income floor. The paid-off home did not become financially significant because of real estate marketing. It became structurally significant because the pension infrastructure that made mortgage debt manageable in retirement was systematically removed from the compensation packages of 85% of the American workforce, and nobody replaced it with anything. The viewer watching this video is, statistically, a member of that 85%. The paid-off home is not a conservative preference. It is the functional pension replacement that the private sector stopped providing. Now locked inside this clean panel is the mechanism that converts that structural reality into a quantified financial threat, and it operates whether you have heard of it or not. Research from Dr. Wade Pfau at the American College of Financial Services demonstrates with mathematical precision what happens when a portfolio experiences a significant negative return in the first year of retirement. A portfolio that loses 20% in year one, while the retiree executes a standard 4% annual withdrawal, does not simply experience a temporary setback. The effective withdrawal rate immediately converts to 5.3% of the now reduced portfolio base. That geometric gap compounds forward across every subsequent year. The 30-year average return can be identical between two investors. The investor who experienced the loss in year 1 will deplete their portfolio years earlier than the investor who experienced the identical loss in year 10. This is the sequence of returns risk. And here is where the mortgage becomes the transmission mechanism. If you enter retirement carrying a fixed monthly mortgage obligation, even at a low interest rate, and the market delivers that year 1 bear market, you are not choosing whether to withdraw from a declining portfolio. You are being forced to withdraw at the mechanically worst possible moment because the payment is non-negotiable. On the left side, Terry enters retirement with a larger portfolio and a $1,400 monthly mortgage obligation. On the right, Frank enters with a portfolio $70,000 smaller and zero mortgage obligation. Follow this curve as both portfolios enter a year 1 bear market. Terry's forced withdrawal rate exceeds 5% immediately. Frank's minimum burn rate drops to Social Security plus carrying costs only. The lines converge. Then they cross. Frank, who started behind on every conventional metric, is ahead by month 36, not because he made better investment decisions, but because he built a structure that did not require him to be perfect at the exact moment the market scheduled its next correction. The gap between those two diverging progress bars is the invisible paycheck, quantified in portfolio survival terms. Now moving down to the second layer of this framework, the quantification engine itself. David and Carol are a Denver household. Social Security combined income, $3,100 monthly. Estimated lifestyle cost, $4,300 monthly. Inside this specific box, the gap is $1,200, which must be extracted from their portfolio every single month, regardless of what the market is doing. Now inject the invisible paycheck. Their home, valued at $380,000, generates an imputed rent of approximately $2,200 monthly. Subtract the net carrying cost, property taxes at approximately $9,000 annually, maintenance reserve at 1.8% of replacement cost, insurance, and the net invisible paycheck is approximately $14,400 annually, or $1,200 per month. That gap closes completely. But here is where the updated research from Morningstar and Vanguard makes this more urgent, not less. The original Trinity study establishing the 4% withdrawal guideline was built on a 30-year horizon with a 50-50 stock and bond portfolio. Updated analysis from Morningstar in 2021 and Vanguard in 2023 reduces the defensible safe withdrawal rate in the current valuation and interest rate environment to between 3.3 and 3.7%. That compression increases the required portfolio size to fund a given income level by approximately 8 to 15% above what older planning software projects. The invisible paycheck is not becoming less relevant as markets evolve. It is becoming more essential, because the portfolio math is getting harder, not easier. Phase 1 of the optionality stack activates at debt elimination, the withdrawal buffer. Phase 2 is the income floor effect, reducing the minimum monthly burn rate to carrying costs only. The third layer is what most financial advisors, and virtually every competing analysis of this topic, have never presented in this specific framework. Research published in the Journal of Financial Planning by Barry Sachs demonstrates that a federally insured home equity conversion mortgage credit line, opened between age 62 and 65 and left completely untouched, grows at the current loan's expected rate, currently between 6.5 and 7% annually. Across Monte Carlo simulations covering 10,000 market scenarios, a coordinated standby strategy, drawing from this credit line during market downturns and allowing the investment portfolio to recover, extended portfolio longevity by 4.6 to 7.2 years. You only access all three layers if the asset is free and clear. Now read these exact words carefully, because this is where the analysis moves from financial mechanics to neuroscience, and the data is more confronting than most people expect. Princeton economists Sendhil Mullainathan and Eldar Shaffer published foundational research demonstrating that financial stress, Specifically, the cognitive bandwidth consumed by an unresolved debt threat reduces measurable psychometric performance by an estimated 13 IQ points. That is not metaphor. That is not emotional discomfort. That is the equivalent of losing an entire night's sleep, measured through standardized cognitive testing, reproduced across income levels, education levels, and cultural contexts. The interest rate arbitrage argument assumes the decision-maker is operating at full cognitive capacity. The research suggests that the debt itself partially compromises that capacity, making the optimization calculation being used to justify the debt slightly less reliable than its author believes. Inside this specific box sit the three cost categories that never disappear regardless of mortgage status. Property taxes, tracked by the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy, carry effective rates between 1.6 and 2.47% in the 10 highest burden states, representing $8,800 to $9,800 annually on a $400,000 home in New Jersey, Illinois, or Connecticut. Maintenance reserves, updated by the National Association of Home Builders to reflect labor cost inflation in skilled trades running 2.3 times general CPI since 2019, now require 1.5 to 2.5% of replacement cost annually for pre-2000 construction. Insurance costs, particularly in Florida, California, and increasingly inland markets, have structurally reset above 1.25% of value annually due to reinsurance economics, not temporary weather events. Follow this bar upward as all three categories stack. The total carrying cost range is 2.5 to 5.5% of home value annually. Plan around the net invisible paycheck. Never the gross. Phase 1 begins now for the 3-action execution framework. Calculate your net invisible paycheck using the precise formula, current market rent equivalent minus total annual carrying costs divided by 12. That monthly figure belongs on your retirement income statement as a formal line item. Moving down to the second layer, target mortgage elimination by age 60, not 65. Each year the obligation extends into the sequence risk window represents quantified additional forced withdrawal exposure during the statistically most dangerous period of your financial life. The progress bar completes at the third action, run a year 1 bear market stress test on your current plan with your current fixed obligations held constant. If that simulation produces a forced withdrawal rate above 4%, the invisible paycheck is not a preference. It is a structural requirement. The market rewards optimization. Retirement rewards survival. And survival is not built from the highest possible expected return. It is built from the infrastructure that keeps you solvent when the expected return fails to arrive on schedule. The structural advantage of a debt-free home in retirement is not captured in any average. It is captured in the distribution of outcomes, specifically, in the left tail, where the scenarios live that end retirements prematurely. If your current plan has never been stress-tested against that tail, the single most important financial mechanism protecting your retirement is the one your plan has never calculated. There is one additional systemic vulnerability that compounds everything covered in this analysis. And it operates in direct connection with the invisible paycheck framework in a way that most retirement plans have never mapped. That analysis is available for you right now. Click to examine how many of those structural vulnerabilities your portfolio is currently exposed to.